Hello, and welcome back. Tonight, we look at the moment the world changed forever. It was a day when science stole the fire of the stars and brought it down to Earth, not to warm us, but to burn. Imagine a morning that began with the song of birds and ended with a light so bright it erased shadows. This is the story of the Manhattan Project, the Desert of Trinity, and the two cities that became the graveyard of the atomic age. It is a story of how humanity learned to split the soul of the universe, only to find a hollow darkness inside. Before we step into the white light of history, please like and subscribe. Take a deep breath. Let the silence fall. Fact 1. The Trinity Test, the birth of the sun. In the early morning of July 16, 1945, in a quiet desert in New Mexico, the first atomic bomb was detonated. The explosion was so bright that a blind girl many miles away reportedly asked, "What was that light?" For a few seconds, the desert was brighter than 1,000 suns, and the sand itself turned into green glass. Robert Oppenheimer, the lead scientist, watched the mushroom cloud rise and remembered the words of ancient scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." It was a moment where humanity realized it had finally found a way to end itself. Fact 2. The shadows of Hiroshima. When the bomb exploded over Hiroshima, the heat was so intense, reaching thousands of degrees, that it literally vaporized people instantly. But they did not vanish completely. In a haunting phenomenon known as nuclear shadows, the intense light bleached everything it touched, except for where a person or object blocked the rays. On the stone steps of a bank and on the walls of the city, the permanent shadows of people sitting or walking remain to this day. They are the silent, burnt outlines of souls who were there one second and gone the next, etched into the stone by the fire of the atom. Fact 3. The Kyoto Mercy. The city of Kyoto was at the top of the list for the atomic bomb. However, the U.S. Secretary of War had visited Kyoto on his honeymoon and remembered its beautiful temples. He insisted that the city be saved, moving it off the target list. Because of a single man's personal memory of beauty, one city was spared, while another, Nagasaki, was condemned to the fire. It shows how the fate of millions can hang on a single, fragile memory. Fact 4. The 1,000 Cranes. Years after the explosion, a young girl named Sadako Sasaki was diagnosed with leukemia, the atom bomb disease. She remembered a legend that if you fold 1,000 paper cranes, you would be granted a wish. With trembling hands, she began to fold, wishing for a world without war. She died before she could finish, but her story turned the paper crane into a global symbol of peace and the silent pain of the innocent. Fact 5. The Black Rain. Shortly after the explosions, a terrifying rain began to fall. It was a thick, oily black liquid made of radioactive ash and dust sucked into the sky. The survivors, suffering from intense thirst, tried to drink this rain, not knowing it was poison. This black rain carried the death of the bomb deep into the bodies of those who survived the initial flash. It was as if the sky itself was weeping for what had been done. Fact 6. The Demon Core. At the Los Alamos laboratory, a sphere of plutonium known as the Demon Core was responsible for the deaths of 2 scientists in separate accidents. During experiments, the core would suddenly emit a flash of blue light, delivering a fatal dose of radiation in a heartbeat. It was a silent killer, a piece of metal that sat quietly on a table but held the power to extinguish life with a single touch. It remains a symbol of how dangerous the fire of the atom truly is. Fact 7. The boxcar's mistake. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki was not intended for that city. The original target was Kokura, but the city was covered in thick clouds and smoke from a nearby fire. The plane, Boxcar, circled 3 times but could not see the target. Low on fuel, the crew decided to move to their secondary target, Nagasaki. In a world of clouds and wind, the life of one city was traded for another in a matter of minutes. Fact 8. The Tsutomu Yamaguchi story. Tsutomu Yamaguchi is the only person officially recognized as having survived both atomic bombings. He was in Hiroshima for business when the first bomb fell. Injured and burnt, he returned to his hometown of Nagasaki only to experience the second explosion 3 days later. He lived to be 93 years old, a living miracle who walked through the fire of 2 suns and spent his life speaking for the silence of those who didn't. Fact 9. The radiating clocks. In the ruins of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, thousands of pocket watches and wall clocks were found. Almost all of them had stopped at the exact same moment, 8:15 in Hiroshima and 11:02 in Nagasaki. The intense electromagnetic pulse and the heat froze time in its tracks. These clocks are now silent witnesses, their hands pointing forever to the second the world entered the nuclear age. Fact 10. The atomic flowers. After the bomb, many feared that nothing would grow in the scorched earth for 70 years. But the following spring, oleander flowers began to bloom amidst the ruins. They were the first signs of life in a world of gray ash. Today, the oleander is the official flower of Hiroshima, a reminder that even after the most terrible darkness, nature has a way of finding its way back to the light. Fact 11. The ginkgo trees. Among the few things that survived near the center of the Hiroshima blast were 6 ginkgo biloba trees. Although they were charred and the buildings around them were leveled, they didn't die. They bloomed again just months later. Known as the bearer of hope, these trees still stand today, their trunks scarred by the heat, standing as silent guardians of the city's resilience. Fact 12. The Hiroshima Maidens. In the years after the war, a group of young women known as the Hiroshima Maidens traveled to America for plastic surgery. Their faces had been disfigured by the intense heat of the bomb. Their journey was a silent bridge between 2 nations, showing the world the human face of nuclear destruction. They carried their scars with dignity, proving that while the bomb could break the skin, it could not break the spirit. Fact 13. The underwater ghosts. The United States conducted dozens of nuclear tests in the Bikini Atoll after the war. One test, Baker, exploded underwater, lifting millions of tons of radioactive water into the air and sinking massive warships like toys. Today, these ships sit at the bottom of the ocean, ghost vessels covered in coral. They are silent monuments to a time when we tested the end of the world in the middle of paradise. Fact 14. The Radium Girls' Echo. The scientists of the Manhattan Project were often unaware of the long-term effects of radiation. Many worked with radioactive materials using only their bare hands. Years later, many of these brilliant minds fell silent, suffering from the same mysterious illnesses as the people in the cities they helped destroy. It was a tragic cycle of discovery and destruction, where the creators became the victims of their own creation. Fact 15. The Cold War Pulse. At the height of nuclear testing, the world was exploding a bomb every few days. These tests sent radioactive carbon into the atmosphere, which settled into the cells of every living being on Earth. Even today, scientists can tell if a person was born before or after the nuclear age by looking at the carbon in their teeth. We all carry a small, silent echo of the atomic age inside our very bones. Fact 16. The Titan Silos. Deep beneath the soil of the United States and Russia lie thousands of abandoned nuclear silos. These cold, concrete cathedrals were built to house missiles that could end civilization in 30 minutes. Today, many are filled with water and silence, the rusted metal of the missiles still sitting in the dark. They are the most dangerous basements in the world, waiting for a command that we hope will never come. Fact 17. The Tsar Bomba. The Soviet Union once detonated the Tsar Bomba, the most powerful weapon ever tested. The shockwave traveled around the world 3 times, and the flash was seen 600 miles away. It was so powerful that the heat could cause third-degree burns 100 kilometers from the center. It was the absolute limit of human destruction, a moment where the silence of the explosion was heard across the entire planet. Fact 18. The Lost Nukes. Throughout history, there have been several broken arrow incidents where nuclear weapons were lost or accidentally dropped. Some still lie at the bottom of the ocean or buried deep in the mud of swamps, never recovered. These lost bombs are silent, hidden threats sleeping in the dark corners of the earth, waiting in a silence that has lasted for decades. Fact 19. The Doomsday Clock. Since 1947, a group of scientists has maintained the Doomsday Clock, a symbolic measure of how close we are to destroying our world with our own technologies. The closer the hand is to midnight, the closer we are to the final silence. It is a clock that ticks not for time, but for our choices, reminding us that every second is a chance to turn back. Fact 20. The Eternal Peace Flame. In Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park, there is a flame that has been burning since 1964. It is called the Flame of Peace, and it will only be extinguished when every nuclear weapon on Earth has been destroyed. Until then, it flickers in the silence, a small, warm light that stands against the cold memory of the atom, waiting for the day when humanity finally chooses life over fire.